call this meeting to order. I'm going to ask Councillor Susan Penner to bring the opening, please.
Thank you very much. This past weekend, I was in Minneapolis at a trade show for one of my clients, and the last time I was at this particular trade show was in January, and that was shortly after the presidential election. So in January, that was still a hot topic in terms of Trump supporters versus Clinton supporters, and as we all know, the political climate is a little bit touchy maybe these days. So this weekend, it's amazing how that was still such a hot topic in terms of the dealers and the vendors coming to the trade show booth I was at. But one thing that's occurred to me, whether you get to meet people one-on-one, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, right? So when you read the news and read the media, you're always kind of reading the big picture, right versus left, Republicans versus Democrats. And it's not just with politics, it's with religion, it's with social movements. We always hear them in terms of the big picture and the animosity and the fight for your rights. But I always find it interesting when you meet these people one-on-one, doesn't matter which side they're on, there's always a human element. When you break down movements and you meet the people, you end up really liking the people, even if you didn't like the movement. So one thing for me personally, as I'm reading the paper, or I guess it's not the paper, but reading online, and some of these things, for me personally, one thing I've been working on is that when you break down these movements and get to the individual level, most individuals are not don't have nearly as much animosity and aren't nearly as much, I guess, political as maybe the broader movements are. And that's something I'm trying to keep in mind when that I'm not too quick to lump the individuals into maybe the bigger movements that they support. And that's something that goes across all spectrums. Maybe it's not as noticeable on a municipal level. Maybe certain things there are. But I think it's important that we keep a human element to these movements, and that we value relationships over being right and wrong. So that's the big thing I'm trying to focus on, that a relationship with a person is more important than being right in terms of whether it's political or religious perspectives, to value relationships.
Thank you, Councillor Penner. Appreciate that encouragement. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please? Councillor Swagstra, Councillor Funk, second it. Any comments on it? Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, could I have a motion to adopt the minutes of the July 18th regular council meeting? Councillor Siemens, Councillor Carey Penner. Any comments, questions? All in favor? That's carried. Could I have a motion to excuse Mayor Gertson? Councillor Siemens, Councillor Carey Penner. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, there's no business arising from the minutes. We are not quite at 7:35 yet, so we're going to go down to 9A, accounts payable. Could I have a motion for that, please? Councillor Susan Penner. Councillor Earl Funk, seconded it. Any discussion on it? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, then we'll go to Subdivision 4451-2017-7861. It's in page 28. Okay, Mr. Workington, can you introduce that for us, please?
Yes, this application for subdivision has been filed for property at 131 Industrial Road in Steinbach. The purpose of the application is to create an 8-unit industrial condominium development, with the developer intending to build a shop with 8 separate bays on the subject property. There are no concerns from administration with the application. The comments from community planning indicate their support, and they have no concerns with the application for subdivision. The recommendation from administration is that council approve the subdivision subject to the prior execution of the development agreement.
Okay, is there anybody on council has any questions on any of that? Okay, then how would you like to proceed? Okay, Councillor Penner?
Move to approve, subject to development agreement.
Okay, second by Councillor Funk. Councillor Penner?
Yes, the proposal is for 8 units for an industrial condominium. There will be a separate title for each bay, and there are no concerns expressed, as Mr. Workentine stated. So I feel that we should go ahead and approve.
Okay, anything further? Anything further from Councillor Siemens?
Just one comment on it. I agree with the motion as it stands. I think one of the things that I like about these condominium units is that these could become incubator models for small business that rent small space and then they grow out of it. So it's a good starting point for some business.
I agree with that. Anything else further? Okay, then I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, now it is past 7:35, so we're going to go to public hearing on Conditional Use CU-2017-03. Mr. Workentine, could you introduce? I'm going to close the council meeting and open the public hearing. So, Mr. Workentine, could you introduce that, please?
Yes, just for council's information, this particular file and the second one that's also on the agenda, they are related in that the applications are being submitted by the same organization, but they can be treated separately. So first off, conditional use file CU-2017-03 for property with a civic address of 380 Stonebridge Crossing. The application, the owner of the property is Bethesda Wellness, Inc., with the applicant for the conditional use being Mr. Jack Kaler. Purpose of the conditional use application is to allow an electronic message sign to be located in the EI Educational Institutional Zone. The applicant is proposing to place this particular sign on the subject property. According to the city's zoning bylaw, conditional use hearing is required due to the electronic sign component. Notices as required under the Planning Act were issued. There is no written correspondence on file. With respect to the proposed sign, it does meet all the size and setbacks requirements within the particular zone. With respect to the proposed location of this particular sign, there is no concerns. Administration recommends council approval of the conditional use subject to any new information that may be provided at the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Workentine. I see the applicant is here. Does the applicant wish to speak?
I couldn't get you any questions.
Okay. If you want to take the podium and say your name and address, I don't know if there are any questions, but that'll give people opportunity, councillors an opportunity to everything you want to opening up. Maybe
I'll be brief.
Okay. You know the routine, right? So.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Farrer and members of council. I'm representing Steinbach, Bethesda Wellness Inc. today on a pylon sign application that has one part of the sign being a digital sign. The majority of the sign is actually fixed. There's one panel that's 3 feet by 9 feet that will be the digital sign. The sign is being installed at the extreme northeastern corner of the wellness property at 380 Stonebridge. It's approximately 350 feet away from the nearest residence. Obviously, the manufacturer, which is a local manufacturer, will meet all the zoning bylaws. The intent of the sign is to service the 11 units that are being leased in the wellness center, and not necessarily exclusively, but that's the intent. As tenants go up, we expect the whole sign to be filled up.
Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Funk?
Just what you said brought one question, but on the digital sign,
Yep.
that will be exclusive to the services that are provided on site.
That is the intent, yep.
There won't be any like off-site advertising.
Not on that particular side, no.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay. Then you can have a seat.
Yep.
Is there anybody wishing to object to this file? Anybody wishing to object? One more time. Anybody wishing to object to this file? Seeing there's no one, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the council meeting. How do you want to proceed? Councillor Swagstra?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay. Any seconder? Councillor Funk? Councillor Swagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I think it's a straightforward application. This is not, certainly not the first sign that we've permitted that has an electronic component. Those are becoming increasingly common, and I think it makes sense to allow this, as has been explained. The advertising will be in relation to the business that, the wellness center that is right here, and I think it's an appropriate use, so I have no problem giving the approval.
Okay. Anything further? No? Anybody else from council have any? No? Okay, I'll ask for the question. Is any further question? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, and we're going to go to 6B, the Conditional Use CU-2017-04, which is also related to the same corporation here. So I'm going to close the council meeting, open the public hearing. Mr. Workman, could you introduce that for us, please?
Yes, this particular application for conditional use relates to property, although it doesn't have a civic address because the property is currently does not have a structure on it. It is does have an address of Loewen Boulevard. The owner of the property, again, the owner of the property is Steinbach Campus Foundation, Inc., with the applicant again being Mr. Jack Kaler. Also to allow an electronic message board sign to be located in the EI, Educational Industrial Zone, similar to the last property. The proposed sign is identical to the one in the previous file. Again, notices as required under the Planning Act were issued. There's no correspondence with respect to the file. In regards to this particular application, again, the administration does not have any concerns with the application and recommends council approval subject to any comments at the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Worthington. Applicant, would you like to speak, or it's probably can't say?
First application, there are some questions I can answer.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on? Okay. Okay. Then I'm going to ask: is there anybody that objects to this file? Anyone that objects? File time. Anybody that objects to this file? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing. Open the council meeting. How would you like to proceed, Councillor Funk? Okay. Any seconder? Councillor Siemens. Councillor Funk.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Well, these two sign applications, they go hand in hand. With one sign, you need the other. So I think it's all been said. I think we just need to approve and move on.
Anything further? No? Okay. Okay, I think it's a good thing. I think that because it's the medical center is not exactly on a main thoroughfare, I think this is a good way to direct the traffic there. And it might be only something that's needed at first, but I think it's a good thing. So I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, we have no delegations, and no reports from the city manager. So I'm going to go to 9C. Mr. Workington, can you introduce the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund issue there for us, please?
Yes, there is a few pages with respect to this particular item starting on page 66. City of Steinbach originally applied for funding from the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund that does provide grant funding for a variety of projects, with the application for the secondary water supply facility that the city is proposing to construct on Park Road West. The original application totaled $10 million, and the The Canada-Manitoba Infrastructure Secretariat advised the City of Steinbach in early 2017 that it had approved the City of Steinbach for funding, however, only for a portion of the project totaling $2.5 million. With more recent discussions with the Infrastructure Office, the City has been advised that there may be additional funds under the program that could be made available, and the office has suggested that the City of Steinbach resubmit its original request for $10 million, a $10 million project, and the related funding accordingly. What I have prepared with respect to that recommendation or suggestion is the draft resolutions both on page 67 and on page 68. The first resolution would provide City Council authorization to do exactly that. However, it does require the City to decommit the original funding award as is noted in the final paragraph, as the federal government has advised that they are not able to recommit funding that has already been awarded. I will also note that it is a conditional decommitment. It is with the expectation that the full funding for the $10 million project does get awarded. So the city isn't going to be out the funding that is already awarded should the city not qualify. The second resolution that is found on page 68 is with respect to that project, and the program that the funding is being made available under requires that all work be completed by March 31st, 2018. Based on the anticipated construction schedule for this particular project, we would expect we would need extra time. There is an opportunity to request for the federal government for an extension, and that's in fact what the second resolution would do, is request a program funding extension to March 31st, 2019.
Okay. Council, it's somebody that could make a motion, make the motion that we find on page 67. Councillor Swagstra?
I'll make the motion that's on page 67.
Okay. Councillor Penner, you choose which one. Carrie? I saw her first. So. Okay. Councillor Swagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The wastewater, the water expansion project is estimated to be about $10 million in total, and obviously the more funding that we can get for that, the better. We had previously been approved for a project total of $2.5 million. There is an opportunity to get a higher percentage of that $10 million cost share, and this resolution makes it possible to make that application. So it makes sense for us to proceed in this way so that we can get a higher percentage of the $10 million covered by other levels of government.
Okay. Councillor Penner, anything further?
Nothing further.
No. Is anybody else? Councillor Susan Penner?
I just want to note that this will be one of the biggest capital projects that the city has done, other than maybe the lagoon. And we're very thankful if we can get other money from other levels of government. I believe up until this point, $3.5 million is the largest grant we've received from either level of government. So it, compared to the lagoon, it gives some perspective of what we can hopefully expect from other levels.
Thank you. That's right. Anything further from council? Okay. Then I'll call for the question. All in favor? That is carried. Now I'm going to need somebody to make a motion on page 68 to ask for the extension. Councillor Susan Penner, second by Councillor Siemens.
Well, as the city administrator mentioned that the deadline is 2018, so this is extended by a year, giving us more time to do paperwork and the project.
That's right. Thanks. Anything further? Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, any questions of council? Seeing none. We'll go to correspondence on page 69. There's no action required on that, so I will take that as information. And then we'll go to 11B, Diner and 52, the stop sign request. Councillor, or Mr. Workington, can you briefly just encapsulate what the request there is?
Yes, if we have aerial photography of that intersection, that perhaps would explain it a little more clearly. I'll start with the current configuration of the intersection of Lund Road and North Front Drive, which is just to the right of where the, I'll drive. This is the present location of the Lund Road, North Front Drive intersection. The stop sign configuration at this intersection currently has a stop sign here, it has a stop sign here, and it has a stop sign here. With respect to the letter that is before council regarding the Industrial Road North Front Drive intersection, currently the intersection configuration indicates a stop sign here and a stop sign here, but there is presently no stop sign here. The request with the letter is that City Council authorize the stop sign at this location so that the traffic that is currently progressing on and off of the diner on 52's property has, according to the letter of request, a safer access to get onto both North Front Drive and Industrial Road generally.
Okay. Okay. That I think actually this request has some merit due to the fact that there's the motels being built in the back. There will be a fair bit more traffic, and if you hit that intersection at the wrong time, you probably won't get on. But it might be something that we might get staff to look at and see whether it warrants a stop sign there. Can we have them do that?
Since having received this letter a number of weeks ago, I actually have done exactly that.
Okay.
And have asked for input from the city's engineer. Right. Based on his review of that particular intersection and the fact that that particular stop sign configuration already exists at Lund Road and North Front Drive. Recommendation is that council approve the additional stop sign.
Okay. Could I have somebody make that a motion? Councillor Swagstra?
I'll make the motion. We approve the city manager's recommendation.
Okay. Anybody want to second that? Councillor O'Funk? Anything further you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. After hearing that information in regards to the stop sign configuration at the right nearby intersection, and seeing that this would essentially mirror that, and hearing that our city engineer has looked at this intersection and analyzed it and recommends it, I think it makes it a fairly straightforward request. This will improve safety if that's what our staff is recommending, and if it parallels a nearby stop sign configuration, then it makes sense to go ahead and put the stop sign there.
Okay. Anything further from Councillor Funk?
Thank you. Yeah, anytime we increase safety, that's a good thing for the community, for people that are driving in our community, for pedestrians. And I did not know that the work had been done, and I think we should go by the recommendation on this one. And it's pretty straightforward. I think we should just approve it and move forward.
Great. Any other comments? Councillor Susan Penner?
I'd just like to ask a question of administration for you. Do we have any idea what the timeline for a traffic light is at that industrial 52 location? Is that on the radar?
At this time, I have not seen a response from Manitoba Infrastructure on that request. It is still under consideration.
Okay, so then when that happens, I'm assuming then the whole intersection's reevaluated, including those stop signs.
Yes, the consideration for traffic signals would prompt an overall review of all traffic movements on that intersection.
Great. Well, Council, I think I applaud the fact that the city staff took the initiative to assess this before it came to Council, so that we didn't have to refer it there. And so I think it's great. I think it's a good move. I think it's the right thing to do. So I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. There's no other business. I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Kerry Penner, Councillor Susan Penner, seconds. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much.